Okay. So that tard was lying to me. But speaking of hard R tard, uh, gosh dang it. Thank you, Randy. So RUGER and DeadAir combined to make the hardest R can of all time. the RAWR XD 30
Oh,
Ti.
brother.
Yeah. So RUGER recently they bought Anderson. Anderson died so that the Phoenix of RUGER could rise or something like that. But the first thing that they come out with is these new collaborations, right? We've seen these popping up more and more, companies collaborating with each other. Some would say cross contamination or whatnot. But so yeah, we get a 30 caliber flow through titanium brake. Now I don't know why they're doing this. This seems stupid, for lack of a better word, because like it's just a DeadAir can that is co-branded with RUGER, and maybe RUGER will get like some sort of discount on it for some of their rifles or whatnot. But it's kind of just another DeadAir can. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts of this collaborative effort that we see in the market now, where multiple companies come together to produce a singular product. That's really, I guess it really is just more marketing. It's
there's
just
things,
a different
right?
way to brand the comment. Go for it.
There's marketing, and then there is, I mean, I don't know how liquid these companies are, but potentially the production costs can be shared by both companies depending on how they've arranged it. So there might be some benefits there as well. But yeah, I mean, I think those two things are the main benefits. It's perhaps sharing the cost of the production and then the marketing that they can share as well.
Mm. Right, because that actually complicates things, because now who gets the money from it, though? Because if you're sharing costs, and now we're revenue splitting as well on a product. And the thing with this, when it comes to manufacturing, I don't think RUGER is doing any of the manufacturing on it, because it's all just, DeadAir already has all of the manufacturing capability spun up for this type of thing. So I don't know what RUGER, if anything, is actually contributing to it, other than maybe just a name. Or possibly maybe they're trying to go for like a more hunting oriented audience, and RUGER has that brand association. So it's like, oh, I want to buy the RUGER suppressor to go with my RUGER American. Maybe there's some sort of like trying to reach a wider audience there, I suppose.
They do. I mean, there's a lot that goes on a bolt action and stuff. Like that kind of makes sense for the marketing.
Yeah, I mean, because they rated up to some of the Magnum calibers, like 300p PRC 308, energy rating of 4,400 foot-pounds. So even 300 Win Mag would be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's a lightweight, relatively lightweight flow through, 12 ounces for a full size can. Titanium, $1,000+ can, yeah, $1,099.
I guess maybe
which actually isn't too bad.
Maybe this is like they saw the HPA. Now people don't need to pay $200 for a tax stamp. So, boomer FUDs are going to say, oh, well, that doesn't cost me any money. I'll file some paperwork and I'll get a nice light can that makes my, my deer slayer more pleasant to shoot and whatever. I mean, maybe that's the trying to corner the FUD market here. I'm trying to, throw it all together.
Well, I think that this definitely had to be in the works long before the HPA and Short Act were going to be passed, right? This had to have been done months and months and months ago.
Yeah,
because this stuff would take a while to work out all the details. Who's getting the profits from it? Who's sharing the manufacturing costs? Who's doing the marketing for it? So on and so forth. So, but I mean, maybe it is just really good timing, just that the HPA happens to pass the time that right before they announced the can coming out. And I think, I don't know, I haven't really talked to you guys about this, but what do you guys think about the can market, SBR market next year when this stuff actually goes into effect?
I mean, I'll go first. I very unfortunately, we live behind enemy lines, so I can't even own any of this stuff anyway, which is super gay, and we're working on it. So I don't really know a lot about the suppressor market. SBRs, stuff like that. So I can't really like give a ton of input because it's not really my area of expertise, I would say. I think that it will definitely, the market will have a little bit of a spike for sure. I think people will still see the paperwork and go, I don't really want to do that. But I think there'll be a good amount of people who are like, oh, finally, you know, it doesn't cost, I'm not throwing away $200 for this. So I think, you know, there'll be a jump for sure. We'll see some cool stuff come out and it'll be more commonplace, but I don't think it'll be like the crazy explosion like people wanted.
Right.
Well, it depends on how these lawsuits go, right? I mean, I think
That's true too. Yeah.
Really the paperwork is removed, then I think that you will see a jump. I mean, I think the sad truth is that the paperwork is just enough of a barrier to a lot of people where it's just one extra step. I don't know if it was that combined with the $200. Like, I'm just thinking for me personally, it took me a while to get suppressors. And the main thing I think was just laziness on the paperwork side, where it's like, I could go to the gun store, I could get a new gun, or I could go through this process that I didn't really understand. I'd never really researched it. I didn't know what was going to go into it to get a suppressor. And, you know, the high that I got from a new purchase was the instant gratification I was seeking was satisfied by a new gun. And so back in my compulsive gun buying days, that was a significant thing. I try to be a little bit more, I'm a recovered compulsive gun buyer now. But yeah, so I do wonder how significant the $200 was compared to just the paperwork side of it, and potentially putting your name on a registry. I think that is intimidating to a lot of people as well. I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious how the lawsuits go. I'm curious how things move along in that direction. I think you definitely will see a bump. I don't know that. Yeah, I haven't talked to any suppliers. I'm curious how they're prepping for it. They're probably the best people to talk to, whether they're spinning up extra production. I don't know.
I'd say, oh, go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead, King. It's all you.
Go for it, bro. You're good. I'll go last.
All right. Like John had said, I think that if they remove the registry, you'll see a lot of the more homemade stuff. Like if they were to just take it away, then everybody who has an AR pistol takes off their brace and sticks on a stock and then puts on a vertical grip if they don't know what they're doing with their rifle. And then, you know, we get a lot of that going on for sure. But I don't think until the homemade stuff can happen, I don't think there'll be a huge jump.
I mean, in theory, I think Hops made this point before, but the part of the reason why prices were so high on suppressors is because the only people buying them were people that were already willing to pay the $200 tax stamp. Like they already knew they were paying a lot extra for a product. So the only people buying them were people that, you know, theoretically needed them or wanted them bad enough. Whereas you remove that extra $200, maybe you see the price starting to come down even more beyond just the $200. So maybe suppressors are now $400 cheaper. And that could make a huge difference as well, just from a supply and demand perspective.
And then I think when we look when wait times, when e-forms came out and the influx of like purchases of suppressors, like it hit the market hard and it was really hard to buy even like a Polonium K for a long time. But the only thing that scares me about this bill is the way it was passed. Is like the precedent it sets that if we can edit the tax to $0, who's to say another administration is going to come in and bump it to $500 or $1,000? That just, I don't know. Maybe I'm fear mongering, but that kind of is worrisome.
Well, we looked at that the other day, and I don't think you need to mute yourself unless there's other background noise, because I think it does a pretty good job of cutting out the echo. Gotcha. But I think we looked up the numbers the other day, and it's something like $4,400 when adjusted for inflation from. It was something stupid. It's a stupid number. So if they come back and they're like, well, actually, we're just adjusting for inflation from 1934, and now it's $4,500 at tax stamp. Now I'm in the category where this actually affects me the most, right? Because I already have suppressors and SBRs. I have like 3 or 4 SBRs, a couple suppressors, right? So for me, it is just the $200. I don't care about being on a registry. I'm already on every list out there. But now a $500 can just got cut, 25% in price, basically. So it's a huge cost reduction for me. And what my hope is that I know of a lot of people that were already coming out with suppressors, but I hope that these new suppressor companies kind of ramp up production and come out with lines that are very competitive, $400, $500. And that's a very, very attractive price out the door. That was basically impossible beforehand, right? Because to get that price beforehand, you'd have to be a $200 suppressor or a $300 suppressor with a tax stamp added onto it. But And keep in mind, these products are not particularly expensive, right? You could make suppressors for very cheap. So removing the barrier to entry, like even when he said when the e-form time went down from a year, because I bought mine when it was a year, right? Awful process. I'm like, this is miserable. Never doing it again, right? I gave these guys $1,300 and I didn't get my product for like the next July or something. I'm like, that just doesn't seem fun. But then once the e-form got down to like a week, you saw a huge influx where everything was out of stock. I was actually going to buy more suppressors, but everything was out of stock. So then I was like, oh, I'll just put it off. And then after a while, I go, oh, I don't actually need them, so I'm not going to buy more. But now that they're getting even cheaper with the very fast wait times, with the possibility of new suppressor manufacturers getting into the game, and I know of at least 3 new companies that are going to be coming out with cans in the next 6 to 12 months. So I think that this can be a really big influx, whether or not we get the full win. Now, if we look even further down the road, like you said, like 27, 28 timeframe, where we're worried about a regime change in there, you might see a second panic buy run streak like we had a pandemic time 2020-ish time frame where suppressor and gun buying just goes off to record levels. Basically very possible.
You would hope that getting rid of the tax stamp does allow for really cheap fine suppressors, right? Because that was always basically it was essentially precluded by the existence of the $200 tax stamp, because you knew that you would have to pay that. So there was no point to make a really cheap, just fine suppressor.
Yeah.
But now,
well, even a cheap can, a $300 can is still $500.
You're right. Exactly.
Right.
But now if you get rid of the tax stamp, I would hope that you start seeing some really cheap suppressors that people just want to get into a can.
Yeah.
I've thought about taking Meteorite Concepts in the suppressor direction. They're just so easy. It's tempting, but I do wonder if kind of missed the boat. There's a lot of companies that are doing that. But yeah, it's like, especially with 3D printing and metals, those are really good now. There's a lot of cool things you can do. But yeah, getting into it, it's just hard to know whether the right route to go is just really cheap suppressors that are just do the job, or if you should start going into like the complicated fluid dynamics. Actually,
right.
My brothers are the engineers, so they're the ones who can actually speak that language. But trying to make something really innovative, some cool flow through cans, that kind of thing. But the potential is out there right now. It's not that hard to get into, especially with the $200 tax stamp reduced. And if we start to see some of the regulation go away with the lawsuits, I mean, that's a huge changes.
I think the $0 tax stamp made a good foothold for this lawsuit that's going on too. So there's hope.
Yeah, that's what
it gives them a much stronger standing, right? Because there is no tax on the tax stamp. So why is there a tax stamp, right?
Yep.
It is essentially just a pseudo registry at that point.
I don't think anybody's going to be. People think that companies will jack up their prices by $200. I don't really.
I have heard that as well.
Yeah, I think maybe in the short term they might, but I think the competition of the fact that now your what was $500 suppressor, you're going to charge $700 for or whatnot. But people are making cheaper suppressors because now the proportionality of paying that $200 isn't there. Yeah, companies might, but I kind of doubt it. At least I think that they won't.
I think a couple companies will raise their prices in the interim because demand is going to sell out of stock. Because I don't think the suppressor companies actually spit out like 1 million suppressors. Like I think they spit out enough to keep things in stock, but they don't want stock sitting there for long periods of time. But when you get an influx of say 20, 30%, whatever that jump is, January 1, I think that you will see some companies raise prices slightly to try and keep stock or to try and cash in a little bit. But in the long term, they won't, because all it takes is one company to not raise prices and suddenly theirs are so much more competitive and selling more. Right.
I don't know.
I don't know how much I believe the companies will raise prices thing.
Well,
in the short term possible.
One specific company, someone asked I believe it was the CEO or the owner, one of the two, directly. They said, "Hey, are you going to raise prices now that they are removing the tax stamp?" And he said, "I don't know. Maybe. It depends on what everybody else does." And it's like, all right, I get that. But then he immediately replied back with, "I don't want to look like an asshole." I don't want to be the only one and look like an asshole. It's like, all right, well, you just did that.
Well,
right?
I think that they are looking at their bottom line, of course, because they're seeing suppressor companies should be looking at this as a huge payday, right?
Mhm.
And so the guys that raise prices, they will see probably stagnant sales. Like it'll stay the same level. You'll get increased demand, but it'll kind of stay at the same level because they'll price themselves out of the market. And then some of the guys will just take advantage of the extra demand, and so they will look cheaper by comparison. So it is kind of a Mexican standoff where everybody's looking at each other and they're like, well, that company is raising prices. Well, that company's not. So it's like, well, how much stock do I have? How much can I sell? How much can I make? Like, because here's the thing: if you're maxed out at production, right, and you can't even keep up with what you're selling, you might as well raise prices.
Yeah,
because it's just is
Yeah.
going to level out.
I want to say it was Otter Creek who said that they were going to do that. I'm not
Going
sure.
to
I'd
raise
have
prices, or
Yeah, I'd have to go back through and look. Somebody sent me something. They were having talks with one of the suppressor companies.
Mhm.
I wanna
Well,
say
and
it's
well, here's the thing: if they do raise prices, it gives an even better foothold for new companies to come into the market. So
100%.
either way it goes, you are going to have access to cheaper suppressors, one way or the other. It is going to happen. If companies raise their prices, at least 3 new companies that I know that are like literal startups that made a CAD file, the 3D printed can, and figured it out, are going to come in and just keep the prices as what they were originally going to launch at and look cheaper by comparison, right? So
What do you?
you're going to still get access to cheaper suppressors, 100%.
Adam
that would be my
Smith's
guess.
invisible hand will do its thing. No one owes you a suppressor at a particular price, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
What do you
and
guys think about the kits coming in from China, right? Because before they were cracking down on that really heavy.
Oh, like the Temu, like Wish.com shit.
Yeah, I would steer very clear of that. It would be cool to form your own suppressors at home for free, right? All you have to do is mail off a set of fingerprints. That's it. And again, I'm already on all the lists. They already have my fingerprints. Doesn't matter to me. But because of the way that they do Form 1s now, where you have to implicate yourself in a crime to get approval for the Form 1 to make your suppressor, because you're technically not supposed to have suppressor precursor parts, but then they want to show them your suppressor parts before you make it. It's like, well, that doesn't seem right. But if they didn't have that requirement, because I did make a Form 1 suppressor back in the day, and I waited like 8-9 months for approval on that thing, and it was just a steel tube with welded baffles on the inside, the most simple thing possible. It was just a stack of like pressed tubes basically. But yeah, I would like Form 1 suppressor manufacturing to be able to be easy and fun to do, but the ATF ruins all fun. So because there used to be companies dedicated around selling you not suppressors, but like tubes, baffles, adapters, all that sort of fun stuff, and you could just buy the parts, send off your Form 1, get it approved, and you could build it in your home, get it engraved, and you're done.
Yeah,
That's it.
And if you get the deregulation, that's going to come back where you'll get just companies specializing in their particular baffles or their particular guts, where you can buy a tube from one company, the baffles from another company. I mean, you just don't see any of that now, but all that can come back.
I would love that. That would be my favorite thing, because that way there you can make it. If it also just if we remove the NFA restrictions, right? You can just do it all in your garage at home, no paperwork, no fuss, no nothing, and you get surprise, you get a fairly decent suppressor. Because like the meme is the Maxim suppressor made in 1896 or something, and how it looks the same as the new Q Hypertech 556 cannon. It's like, at the end of the day, guys, it is baffles inside of a welded tube. It's not that complicated. Like 3D printing and flow through, very cool for a very different purpose. But suppressor technology, not complicated.